For years they've served faithfully, but now given up and disposed of by their drivers, because on the road they can no longer be used. There are over 2,500 unwanted cars here slowly rusting away, and more are added every day. A gigantic pile of scrap metal, you might think. But in fact, there are still some real treasures hidden in these mountains of metal. The cars are still in great demand, and for many Germans, this is their favourite weekend playground. Around 600 customers a day come to Germany's biggest bargain market for used car parts. The site in Norderstedt near Hamburg covers a total of around 70,000 square meters. Today, the final journey. Built in 1998, and the engine has had enough. Now its driver is taking it to the recycling yard.
Only 2 years ago, I drove to northern Italy with my daughter in this, but unfortunately, I have to get rid of it now. It's always run very well, but now the engine keeps cutting out while I'm driving, and so it won't get through the MOT next month.
In the course of their life, every German buys 8 cars on average. Gisa's already got a new one at home, so she wants to hand in the old one here. What can I do for you?
Unfortunately, I have to part with my car.
Unfortunately, but there's usually a new one, and that's good. Managing Director Ole Helbach lives off cars like this. There are still lots of valuable parts in this car that his customers will be very happy about. It'll bring a bit of money in as well. I can give you 50 for it.
Oh, that's good. I wouldn't have expected that.
Gisa Peening is visibly surprised that she's getting money for her car. It doesn't cost anything to dispose of the cars here, because there's enough space and customers to strip the cars down themselves. The customers come here to save money, but they also want to cherry pick. For the best parts, however, you've got to be fast. We're actually looking for a steering wheel cover, but so far we haven't found anything. The best parts are always taken out first and stored inside. What's left here are only those with dents or scratches, but we always hope to find decent, good cladding parts somewhere. That's right. Before the customers are allowed to strip down Gisa's car, the car dealer looks for things he can still use and takes them out himself. Spare parts are in great demand, especially for common car models like Gisa's car. Dismantling the cars is Ali's domain. He decides which parts end up in the sales warehouse and which remain in the car for the customers to take out themselves. Airflow meters, they're also popular parts. Looks good, can go into the warehouse. The airflow meter ends up here later, in the spare parts warehouse, an approximately 2,000 square meter hall. Supervisor Carsten Grell has over 40,000 parts in his warehouse, but customers always manage to ask for the very parts he doesn't have in stock at the moment. Yeah, have you got the headlight for such and such a vehicle? And then you have to say, no, sorry, not at the moment. And you can hear the customer's disappointment on the phone. Oh, too bad, never mind, goodbye. It happens. No wonder when you consider that there are several hundred car brands worldwide and that one car alone consists of around 10,000 individual parts. The next stop for Gisa's car, draining. All toxic and flammable liquids, oil, petrol, wiper fluid and battery acid have to come out. The tyres also have to come off. We dismantle a few things, for instance safety-relevant things like batteries that can create sparks and cause fires or explosions. At the same time, we test them to see if they can still be sold. Batteries that still work, for example. Used oil is recycled just like for any normal oil change. On average, there are still 10 litres of petrol in an old car, but it can no longer be used because it's usually contaminated. About 20 litres of fluids are siphoned off into separate tanks. Good, this vehicle is now ready to go into the yard. Car tyres in a good condition are sold on. Worn-out tyres end up at the tyre recyclers, where they're first washed and then torn to pieces. Tyres are not only made of rubber, but also of steel and textile fibres. The individual raw materials are separated with the help of grinders, magnets and blowers. At weekends, the recycling yard is a paradise, especially for car freaks and DIY enthusiasts. Jens Tans and his buddies come to the yard almost every week and go treasure hunting. They always bring their own tools along. There's nothing worse than coming to the yard and finding there's a tool missing, so it's best to bring them all. Jens is a passionate tinkerer. For him, there's nothing better than working on his car at the weekend. Today, he's looking for a brake booster, and he finds one. The part is almost new. I've been looking for this for a while, and it's really great, because it's definitely been a replacement part already, so I don't need to buy a new one. I don't know how much they want for it, but it'll be cheaper than ordering it on the internet somewhere.
Das wird auf jeden Fall billiger sein, als wenn ich das irgendwo im Internet bestelle.
New deliveries arrive several times a day. On average, a car's lifetime in Germany is about 12 years. Norbert Plath collects old private cars from customers, but he also has cars with accident damage on board. The cars are only secured with belts, but Norbert has everything under control. I've never lost a car in 25 years or even a part. Always a little bit of risk, always a bit of a thrill. Around 30 cars arrive at the yard every day. More than enough material for the DIY freaks to drop in every weekend. Jens Tans and his buddies have also been on site for 4 hours. Stripping down a car is fun, but sometimes it even gets car lovers like Jens thinking. A car is not just a material object, at least not for people like us who like working on them. There's a history in the cars. You go on holiday, you go to parties, sometimes even sleep in them for whatever reason. So it's more. A car is more of a companion, and that's why there are emotions in there as well. Definitely.
Da sind schon Emotionen mit drin, definitiv.
In a remote corner of the yard is a special area. This is where those car parts end up that mustn't fall into the hands of customers under any circumstances. The airbags. They have to be blown up. So that nothing happens to the car itself, the airbags are taken out first. Norman Kiso blows them up in an old car. It is dangerous, so you should be careful to keep your hands, body, face, head away from the detonation. They're all very important things to look out for, because bits of plastic, metal, or the airbag itself can end up flying around. Only Norman Kiso is licensed to blow things up, because he's been specially trained to do it.
3, 2, 1.
To make sure there's always enough space for new car wrecks on the site, forklift truck driver Marcel sorts out the vehicles that have already been stripped down. He stacks them onto this large pile, with up to 6 cars on top of each other, and has to be very careful that the pyramid doesn't collapse. It looks very wobbly most of the time, but it's safe enough, so there's nothing to worry about really if you do it right. From here, the car bodies embark on their final journey, because they still contain valuable raw materials. Glass, for example. Car glass has a film inside, and the rear window also has built-in heating wires. That's why a shredder first breaks the glass into small pieces. Other systems then separate the glass into its individual components by shaking, using magnets and water. The glass is then made into new car windscreens. A large shredder breaks the car bodies into small pieces. Special machines filter out valuable raw materials such as steel, copper and aluminium. The steel is then melted down at 1700 degrees Celsius. In the meantime, there's now a free parking space for Giza's car on the site. Once in the yard, the small car soon arouses the interest of the customers. Giza's car will probably be stripped down and emptied in a few days. then it too will finally end up in the shredder. On average, Germany's biggest car recycler gets 200 to 400 euros worth of spare parts out of a car. The DIY freaks will soon know whether they've got a bargain or not. I'm not quite sure if I found exactly the right parts because the intercooler was already in there. It had already been demounted, but it probably won't be very expensive. It's not the latest model either, but it still looks good, so I'm quite happy. Let's see what we have to pay at the cash desk later. Maybe we can still haggle a bit, then it could be a bargain. Shortly before closing time, the checkout is still very busy, and there's rarely an item crosses the counter that isn't haggled over. 90 euros for all of it together. Ooh, can't you reduce that a bit? What did you have in mind? 70? Let's meet in the middle, 80. Yeah, okay, let's make it 80. If you get someone who tries to go too far, then you start a little bit higher, so that he goes away satisfied and you still get your money. But as a rule, we're happy to negotiate prices with our customers. Everybody should leave here satisfied, right? Yes, I'm satisfied, because if I'd got it somewhere on eBay, it would have been a lot more expensive. It was a really good deal. So now it's going to be a nice screwed-up weekend. Some drop off their long-time companions here, others take pleasure in the still usable parts, and at some point, the remaining raw materials will go into making new cars.